Aspiring for elective positions in the 2017 general election have only 3 days left to participate or preside over harambees. This is because after Wednesday this week, that is on the 7th December 2016, the law outrightly bars aspirants from participating directly or indirectly in fundraisers. While the law seems explicit enough, how to enforce the law remains the big question. Just how realistic is this law, and can it help reduce corruption and voter bribery during the electioneering period? Keep talking to us. The hashtag on Twitter is GamePlan2017, and you can text us on 22422. In studio tonight, IEBC Commissioner Thomas Letangule, thank you for making time for us, and Mule Musau, who's the National Coordinator Elections Observation Group, ELOG. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. First, I'll start with you, because you're from IEBC, but do you think this is going to work? What do you make of the law itself, but do you think it's going to work?
Well, I think the law is taking us towards the right direction in terms of trying to limit the money which is going to be splashed out there, especially in an election year. You want to rein in on the politicians as much as possible when it comes to an election year, because so much money moves around, and we know that through this particular process called the harambe, that is the rules they use in terms of bribing or in terms of inducing voters to be able to vote in a certain direction. I think the major problem that we have to contend with is how this is going to be implemented, knowing, of course, that we have very crafty politicians in our country. But I hope that this time, with the kind of transparency that we are seeing, people are asked to change the commission. Earlier this year, Letangule is in an outgoing commission as we speak. So if everybody is going to be very spirited in terms of trying to see these changes through, then the commission also needs a coming commission, which is about to be, the one which is going to be chosen. It needs to come out very strongly in terms of reining in on the politicians, and it must be seen to work. Okay,
right. And how? How is that going to work?
Hussein, first, the law is good. It was a proposal of the IBC which we tabled before Parliament, and now it's law in the new amendment law. And therefore, the mischief this law is trying to address is where money plays a big role in influencing voters and influencing leadership. This law is read together with the new campaign finance law, which again has limits on campaign financing. So the idea is that 8 months to the election, these harambees by aspirants and by parliamentarians must stop. And now you ask me how to enforce it. First, we anticipate that the reporting system of it will be by fellow or by 190 or by fellow aspirants. In other words, if you say you're vying and you see Musau here doing this campaign, harambees, you are able to say, no, my opponent is violating the law. And therefore the commission, if it's reported to the commission then is obligated to investigate.
Isn't that going to be a failure already? Why? If you're going to wait for people to tell you ABCD is happening.
For now, the commission has no capacity to do such work. So
the commission, as it is, has no capacity to enforce it.
No, we can enforce. What I'm saying is that once a matter is reported to commission, we already have a committee on enforcement of the code of conduct, and we anticipate that if any complaint is raised that a fundraising has taken here by a certain aspirant, the law gives the commission mandate to disqualify such a person.
After investigating,
after hearing.
So you're going to rely on goodwill. That's what you're saying.
I think basically because we cannot be all over the country.
So you're going to rely on the goodwill of the people to decide and report to the commission. After which you'll do the investigations, hoping there will be evidence.
You see, Hussein, you know how the country is. If a complaint is tabled by a particular complainant and is brought before the commission, and the commission sees and finds that information is credible, it can give the other party a hearing before that committee. And if it does that, then if it is credible enough, then it is an offense under the election law, and therefore that person can be disqualified.
Okay, we'll come back to that. I just want
I wanted to just jump in on that. There are good and bad things in terms of this particular law. In terms of the good things that we talked about, the reining in on the politicians, The problem that IEBC has is that even when you're talking about the campaign finance law, a lot of premium has been put on disclosure. What Commissioner Tangula just talked about, disclosure. We have 1,450 seats for ward representatives. We have the 290. We have the senators, the governors, and the other seats. And the aspirants, the entire mass of aspirants who are going to be going for this seat.
We're talking about thousands.
Yeah, there are thousands of people. So
hoping
what the commission is saying,
hoping Wananchi, like he says, will report on this thousands of people.
Not just Wananchi, but even the other candidates, because you see, everybody has a limit.
Yes.
So one way of disqualifying the other candidate is to go and report them to the commission and say, you know, I think Hussein has, he went to a number of harambees, he conducted a number of harambees, dished out this kind of money, and that has exceeded the limit that he is supposed to be capped at. So that means that then the commission picks up the case, and if they find that the evidence is there, then they can be able to disqualify that particular candidate. That's what I'm saying. There is a lot of premium which has been placed on disclosure. However, as the commissioner says, there is a place of investigations, outright investigation, which is supposed to be conducted by the commission. But I do not think, from where I sit, that based on the numbers that we're going to be looking at, whether it's going to really have the capacity to be able to deal with that.
But he's talked about how they would want what you'd hope for from Wananchi. Do you think that's going to work, really? What he's saying?
Again, you must know that even after a candidate has been cleared by IEBC and the election takes place, it moves to court. Now, petitions are filed in court challenging certain aspects of it.
Right.
And these are also grounds that can be taken to court, and the court can act as well. So it is not just before the nomination exercise. Before the nomination, the commission will deal with it. After the candidates have gone through, then it becomes a matter for the courts to decide. So it's a whole system also of checking up. The courts have a duty, the police, and the media as well in reporting, and we pick it up from there. Okay.
I'll come back to how the systems you've put to handle this. But when you're talking about fundraising, we are mixing two issues here. Of course, there's the Campaign Financing Act. But when you're talking about fundraising, what are you talking about exactly?
We're talking about
participating.
Yes, participating and fundraising. Not just participating in any way. If you look at the law,
that section, participating in any way in a fundraiser.
Yes.
So whether it's a funeral, whether it's a wedding.
Yeah, I think it covers all of them. Even
WhatsApp groups for sick people and all that.
I don't know about that, but the law is clear that in any form of fundraising. So any sort of donating to a particular cause in an harambe setting will amount to violating that law.
Okay. Yeah. I want to, I mean, it's sad that so many people, even on Twitter, that are texting and on 22422 as well, are really saying politicians are still going to find ways around this. I'm going to ask you that with the experience you have in observing elections. But first, what he's saying, that they don't really have systems as such. That is what he's saying, because if you're going to wait for people to report to IEBC, then a lot may still happen, isn't it?
A lot is going to, I think a lot is going to happen. And I think this is the kind of a situation where you say you deal with one person and you hope that one person becomes an example to the others, because they don't have, there is a committee which is supposed to be dealing with such issues within the commission. Remember, and I think we were talking about this just before we got on air, that there is the commission is going to be a smaller commission. We're having 6 commissioners and 1 chairperson. So even in terms of having the personnel at the policy level to be able to make some of the decisions, it's a whittled down commission. Although some argue that, of course, it will be much more efficient in terms of decision making. But looking at just what I described in terms of the number of candidates who are going to be out there, and the possibility of this happening all over the country, and the mandate of this being at the desk of IEBC to be able to rain down on that, then you can see that, I mean, we may be looking for
it is true that we, as an outgoing commission, the incoming commission will be a bit less. It will be less because there will be 6 commissioners and the chair. And the kind of work they are going to undertake is massive, because not only are they going now to check into this code of conduct and enforcement, But at the same time, there is a dispute resolution committee which must look at arising disputes from political parties.
Right.
So it will be a lot of work for them, but we will pray that they will be able to handle.
So right now, you have a standing committee that is going to just explain that to the viewers.
There. We have a standing committee
for enforcing this
called Enforcement of Code of Conduct Committee, which is always in place in the Commission, and that is the committee that will handle matters arising violation of this current law on harambees.
Right, but do they have the resources to do this, or would you? Okay, you're an outgoing commissioner, and I would also want your comment on this. Should there be resources to help enforce this, or should we just? Of course, you can't reach every part of the country, but should you just, like he says, wait for these aspirants and their opponents and the Wananchi to report to IBC in case they see something?
I think Parliament then must look at, because this law...
Or should it be proactive? That's what I'm saying.
This law just came into effect the other day. I think Parliament must then consider... must then consider how to enable the Commission perform these extra functions of ensuring that the law is not violated. And they can fund the Commission a little bit, strengthen that committee of the Commission, together with other agencies of government. We can all work together.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring in, of course, we have the Judicial Committee on Election, which is now led by Justice Msaga Bogoli, I think. It also comes into play in this. Remember that there is an Offences Act now, which is very clear, which, you know, all these Election Offences Act, which is something that we are advocating for some time, because we need everything to be very clear in terms of what are the offences. But bringing in the judiciary in this will take a massive weight off the IBC, because looking at the contracted timelines that we have, looking at the number of things that they have to do. Remember, they have to deal with political parties after the primaries and such. So you want somebody else to take some burden off the Commission if everything is going to work very effectively. So I think Parliament needs to give directions in terms of moving it, or first, of course, funding the Commission to ensure that it can be able to have the capacity to deal with the massive cases which are going to come from this, and then also to have part of the judiciary working very closely with IBC.
Okay, so you'll definitely need resources for this.
Exactly.
Okay. Because IBC is the one that proposed this legislation, I want us to look at...
And the sanction, of course, is just disqualification of the candidate.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. If they are found to have done that.
Yes.
Right. And let's just look at that law, specifically, that you said you proposed to Parliament, if you can have a look at that. The same law gives a caveat that it okay, there we go. First, of course, a person who directly participates in a harambe within 8 months preceding a general election shall be disqualified.
Yeah.
But then, let's take a look at what follows next, which says that it shall not apply to a fundraising for a person who is contesting for a seat, an election that is, or to fundraising for a political party. Now, is this going to be misused? I'm telling you, you cannot preside or participate in a fundraiser.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can participate in a fundraiser if it is fundraising for me, if I'm going for a political seat, or for my political party.
Yes.
So that can be misused.
In other words, they are opening a window for the politicians to fundraise funds for themselves as a candidate and for the party. So there is a distinction there.
I think at the end of the day...
You don't think it can be misused?
No, it can be misused. I totally believe that it can be misused, because, of course, all a politician needs to say is that they go into a school, they are fundraising,
and they say it's for me.
It's for me.
Right.
But now where the catch is that remember the caps again, or remember the issue of being reported in case that money comes to you. Where also, of course, I have a problem, because it is a question of disclosure. It's a question of somebody snitching, you know, snitching on the other, and saying that so and so Letangule here was fundraising actually for themselves. So there is an opportunity to actually be able to misuse that particular law. But what is the intention of that particular caveat is that you want, the politicians want to fundraise for their campaigns. Political parties also need to raise money for purposes of carrying out their campaigns. So that window needed to be created. Now it's a question of how careful then is the Commission going to be in terms of determining what is being hidden or what is forthright.
All right, I'll read two texts or three here as we wind up. Somebody saying, IBC, okay, I'll read this the last so that you get your final comment on that. Somebody saying the law is good, but impractical to implement. There's not a lot of thought went into this, into its implementation. And then Omauro Evans in Kisii County says, I personally welcome the new law on harambees against politicians. Politicians are unique. What if they do it indirectly by using projects? Funeral contributions, are they covered? Yes, they are covered. You've had that said here. Francis Okema, what would be done to churches that had already planned for harambees before today's announcement? Or IBC sanctions? Still, it won't happen.
No.
It won't happen.
Yes.
Right, and finally here, says IBC is relying on the public to report to the commission the politicians participating in harambees is a clear indicator of how analog the IBC system is.
You know, this is a new law which has come into place, and IBC is in preparation for the coming general elections, together with trying to comply with these laws which are coming in. It's not really analog. We are saying that we must all act together to see that the laws is enforced.
Okay.
And we can only rely also on the goodwill of the people and the police on the ground, because we have a government system in place. So if such a reporting is done that there is a violation of this law, then IBC will act.
But you, like you said earlier, would have preferred a situation where you had IBC had resources and went to do this themselves, isn't it? That would have been
an ideal.
Yeah.
But for now, we can only rely on the reportings.
All right.
It's going to be a long shot for IBC to be able to implement this, but I think it's important to tell Kenyans that they are the first observer, and they need to be watching the space. If there's a law which has been created to curb the issue of money on the elections, then I think we ought all to participate in it.
Right. So for now, the onus is on you, the Kenyan, like you're being told, and like Mule Musau says for the other aspirants, for you to be a snitch. If you can be a snitch on this, keep talking to us. The hashtag is GamePlan2017, whether you think this is realistic and it's going to work. And on Twitter, that is on Twitter, hashtag is GamePlan2017, and you can text us on 22422. National Coordinator, Elections Observation Group, ELOG, Mule Musau, thank you so much for making time for us. And IBC Commissioner Thomas Itabule, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this break.